Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New View podcast. My name is Mac.
And my name is Megan.
Come along with us as we dive into the world of competitive Irish dancing and beyond.
Sharing perspectives, developing community, and learning from each other.
We hope you enjoy.
We are so excited to welcome Laura Davidson for this week's episode of New View. Now, Laura has quite the name in dancing. Not only is she now a TCRG for the Sharon Taylor Academy in Scotland, she is also an incredibly talented dancer. Having collected top 5 placements at countless majors, including the World Championships, Laura is absolutely no stranger to success. But we felt compelled to have Laura on today, not only to discuss those competitive victories and successes, but also to hear about her journey. Laura is very well known across social media and she brings amazing attention to the world of Irish dancing, but she does so in such a unique and authentic way. And we just wanted to hear all about her story because she does such a great job of sharing not only her successes, but also the hardships and life as a dancer and how she has grown up. And she's for sure inspired Mackenzie and I and so many others. So, Laura, we're super honored to have you join us today, and we just can't wait to hear about your story and journey in dancing. So,
Oh, thank you. What a lovely, lovely intro. That's so kind. And you both have definitely inspired me throughout the years as well, and I just want to make sure you know that.
Aw. Well, yeah, I think it's mutual and I feel so fortunate to get to have these conversations because we see each other at competitions in passing, but they're always so busy. So it's hard to get into a really nice conversation sometimes. So I feel lucky that we get to share this and just kind of talk about dancing and something that we're all pretty passionate about. So we were thinking, could you just sort of um, describe to everybody how you got your start in dancing and then maybe a sort of a summary rundown of how you got to where you are now in dancing?
Yeah, of course. So I have two older sisters. One is just shy of 10 years older than me, and the other's just shy of 8 years older than me. So that there's quite an age gap there. And when they were younger, they danced because we come from a big Irish heritage. All our family either dances or plays trad music. And like most of my cousins and second cousins and things still do play trad music on tours for the dance shows. So it's just been part of our family for so many years. My sisters weren't actually CLRG, they were Anne Kogol. So when I was old enough to start dancing, after a few years, my older sister said, Mum, will you please take it a commission, please? Because she could see, we had more sparkly dresses and things at the time. That's where she wanted me to go. So my mum took me along and I started dancing when I was really young and just pretty much didn't stop.
That's awesome. And you've been with the Sharon Taylor Academy your whole career?
No, I started off at the McCutcheon School. Well, actually, I didn't. I was with a school called Anthony Savage when I was really young, and then I was with the McCutcheon School. But I started with Sharon 12 years ago and certainly haven't looked back since.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have a really great relationship, and obviously, you're now teaching alongside of her, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, like, I can't even tell you. To be honest with you, it's a total dream come true. I've always looked up to Sharon, and it's like that's what I would say. Oh, Sharon, she's my dancing teacher. Like that's how I would describe her still to people. But to me, she's not actually a dancing teacher. It's so much more than that. Like she's literally like a second parent to me.
Yeah, that's so that I think that is such a lucky relationship to get to have, and I think it's pretty unique. I think when you spend so much time though with your teachers and your coaches and you're traveling with them, it's so cool to develop that. And you know, now that you've become a teacher, I'm assuming she's mentored you so much through that transition as well, from being the dancer and then to more into the teacher role. Can you describe what that transition has been like and maybe how Sharon's mentored you through that?
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't have wanted to be a dancing teacher if it wasn't for Sharon. Like that didn't start coming about until, my sort of later years with Sharon when I was looking at how much she's given me that's nothing to do with the dancing. Now, you wouldn't have been aware of me like maybe 7 years ago even, because I wasn't like on the competitive scene really. I was, but I wasn't doing very well. So dancing wise, I mean, we joke about Sharon waving a magic wand, but that's literally what it was. Like I didn't recall at my first worlds until I was 21. So for the jump to go for that to getting like the globes and things and all that sort of success, that's down to Sharon. Like I was going to say it's made like massively down to Sharon, but that is down to Sharon and just sheer hard work and time and effort that she puts in. But she didn't just put that into the people that were doing well in the class, and she still doesn't. Everyone is on this level playing field. Everyone matters as much as the person next to them. And I absolutely love that about teaching. Everyone gets time in the class, and I can't tell you how important that is for all the kids in the class. But it's not just about the dancing with the teaching part, and you'll know that yourself, guys, because I know you have great relationship with your teachers as well. It's about the life lessons and everything else you get taught that you carry with you through life, the way you hold yourself, the way you speak, the way you interact with others, your timekeeping, all of that does come down to the dance class, which is incredible. And for me, the dance and teaching part wasn't so much about the dancing and more about what my dancing teacher and also her mother as well, who's still teaching, Mrs. Taylor, who's absolutely fabulous, what they've given to me and what they've given to other people. I'm rambling on a bit here, but we were recently at the races. We had a big day out, ladies' day at the horse races, and a lot of the parents in the class came along, and the vast majority of them that were there were actually taught by Sharon and Mrs. Taylor. And it's this cycle of, parents that danced are then bringing their kids back to the class because they loved it that much and they still love it and just want to be a part of a big family. And it was more about that side of teaching that I was really like, this is what I want to do. Like I looked at that and everything about Sharon I think is fantastic. And I'm just like, that's what I want to do.
Wow, that's so, so, so lovely. And as you're talking, I can just like hear your passion for dancing and dance teaching and being involved in the school and the kids and all of that. And it just makes me curious to know, do you think your passion in being so involved in the school has been consistent, like from where you started to now? Because you mentioned that you weren't always like a top placing dancer, but you grew into that. But from what I'm understanding, that passion and love for it was always there, and maybe that kind of helped you to grow into that success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always been absolutely obsessed with the dancing, like maybe a bit weirdly obsessed with the dancing. I think maybe you can relate to that. Is this and it's an obsession. Like I just feel so passionate about it. And even when I wasn't like this high flying competitor, I just loved the dancing. I loved being in the class. I loved the physical dancing as well, which is pretty important when you're. But I did. I loved everything about it, and to me, it didn't matter. Like I'm a competitive person, but the results didn't really matter all that much. Um, I really, really cared about what I was doing in the class each night and also the people that were there and what we were getting up to as a school. We were going away for competitions, like when we travelled to Orlando for the North American Nationals, and like that trip will stay with me for a lifetime. Like it's just given me this huge, huge list of these core memories that'll live with me through life.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I just it's interesting to me, like it sounds like a theme for you that keeps coming up is like this community and like sense of connection and like yes, the dancing itself is that thing that kind of brings about that community and that sense of connection. And I'm just curious, like you always like had a passion for the dancing and but then you credit Sharon so much to sort of big jump in results and like really wanting to commit your life to this way of life, essentially. I'm wondering if you could describe that a little bit more to us. Like, how did Sharon sort of like inspire that in you?
So, like, for the jump in results with Sharon, I think it was that I started listening to her. Like, I started listening to her and taking everything on board. And that's what I'd stress to people that are learning now as a TCRG on the other side of it, that listen to your teacher because they always mean very, very well and they want the best for you. And when I started listening and taking her advice on absolutely everything, I seen my dancing improve and the results improve because of that. But it was that, like, I could have been in the studio every day working really, really hard and trying to fix things myself. But for someone to say, oh, at this point you should do this, or maybe you should try this different, or let's change up the look a bit, I never would have had any of that success, even if I worked really, really hard, because I wasn't all that talented. Like, it wasn't natural to me. I had to work hard for it. So to have someone that has such great expertise, great choreography, like she's got all these workshops she does choreography for, and she's fantastic at that. And the ear for the rhythm and the syncopation and things. Someone to teach me all of that stuff so that I was able to do it, and then eventually I can pass on that knowledge to other people. But I had to learn all that and I had to be taught it. So it was hours upon hours in the studio. I don't know how many late nights we spent when maybe I couldn't get something right, that we had to work a wee bit harder on something. And then, like in the last sort of 2 years of my competitive career, it was also videos sent constantly to her, like, what about this? What about this? And just working so hard and Sharon giving up God knows how many family dinners or events and giving up so much extra time to be in the studio, working with all of us to make us the best we can be. It never would have happened no matter how hard I worked myself. So I can't put any of that down to myself.
That's cool. That's like, what a special thing to go through with somebody too, and then to now be like teaching alongside them. And like you said, is like now you're like a safe keeper of all that knowledge that she passed down to you, and you're the one now that's like passing it on to the next generation. And I think that's such a cool thing to recognize in terms of how we're all connected and how this shared passion for something like really does connect us all. I think that's so special. And could you tell us like how has your dynamic changed going from being like teacher student to teacher teacher, but like what's that like?
But like Sharon's still my teacher.
Yeah.
She's still 100% my teacher, the same as Mrs. Taylor. They have this wealth of experience that I'm never going to catch up on with them because they're still gaining years and years each time. So they're constantly, like both of them, Sharon and Mrs. Taylor, are constantly still teaching me things. And there's things that come along that maybe I would teach this one this way, but teach another kid a different way because they learn like this. And that's something that you need to gain experience to be able to do. So sometimes I feel like I'm able to fast track a wee bit because Sharon and Mrs. Taylor are saying, oh, I seen someone that had this problem with their shoulder years ago, and this is how I learned to fix it. So it's not like I'm never going to be their equal as such because they've just got this wealth of experience that I can only hope to one day have.
Wow, it sounds like you have like just never-ending purpose in all of this, which is really cool. But I mean, I imagine you're a human, so at points maybe it's harder, feels like there's a sense of burnout to some degree. And as like a dancer and a teacher, the process is like kind of repetitive year to year. Do you find yourself ever feeling like that, or are you just like full of that amazing purpose? Because you obviously are like so in love with this.
I don't know so much because I just think like you could be having a bad day, right? Everybody has a bad day. Could be having a bad day, and once I go into the studio, it's all kind of escaped me because these kids have came in to have a good day. Like, nobody comes to the dance studio to have a bad day. So it kind of leaves pretty quick. And in terms of repetitiveness, I don't find that at all. I don't know, I'm young. I've been teaching for just over a year. So I can't speak for anybody else, but I just think every day's brand new in the studio. You never know what you're going to get, especially with the really young ones. Like they're comedy gold in there. So I just enjoy each day as it comes with the studio and with the dancing, and I just love it.
That's
That's like it's just the best outlook. And I love that because I think a lot of dancers we get stuck in like a kind of a phase of burnout or like this is really hard or this is a period of struggle. And not to say that that doesn't exist because it absolutely does, but just that you can get to a point where it is incredibly fulfilling and providing you with this joy and purpose. And dance is just a way to learn all of those kinds of skills. And I think you're a great example of someone who, yeah, has had like hardship and success, and you've now found yourself in like, not found yourself, you've worked hard to now be in a position where you're fulfilled through dancing and you feel so lucky to pass it on. And I just think that's really cool and super admirable too.
I'm curious, now that you just mentioned that you've been teaching for a year now, is there something that like has really surprised you or something that you learned that you hadn't expected would happen in your first year of teaching?
Do you know what I've found really surprising, right? Like, really, is that, I was maybe going to the studio 4 or 5 times a week. Most weeks, 4 times a week when I was dancing. And I would go, I would sometimes assist in other classes when Sharon and Mrs. Taylor were there so that I could start learning because I knew I wanted to teach and I wanted to start learning as much as possible. Um, but I didn't ever appreciate the hours that I put into teaching, even outside the studio. Part of me did think that it's a turn up and you teach and then you go home. It totally consumes your life, and that took me by surprise a bit. I find myself just now because we've got so much going on that most weeks I'm 7 days a week. Um, but it just totally took me by surprise the hard work that goes into the actual teaching part compared to the dancing part.
And I'm sure that probably made you, like in retrospect, kind of look back on your dancing career and appreciate it even more that you're like, wow, this is not that you ever took it for granted. I can't imagine you did because you're just a lovely person. But in looking back on it, I'm sure you're like, wow, like they put so much into me and you come to appreciate it even more and like value that person even more. And then it just provides this like even more purposeful experience. Was that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a pure respect for what was done for me as well over the years, as well as the people around me, because by God, I didn't realise the extra hours that were spent at home thinking of choreography or, speaking to the dress designer about the dresses, any of that stuff. I didn't appreciate that half as much as what I think I should have at the time. I just thought these things were just happening.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely I think as we get older and we gain more responsibility, we definitely gain more insight into like the things that were done for us and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have so much more to be grateful for that I didn't even have insight into." Has like do you at all miss dancing yourself? Or like has the transition at all been difficult? How has that been?
Yeah, I found the transition difficult. I did. I knew it was time for me to stop competing. I think when you know, you know. And I knew in Montreal, I decided I was doing one more world, and that was it. And it seemed perfect for me because my first World Championships was in Glasgow, my hometown. My last World Championships was in Glasgow. So I was just like, it's a nice full circle moment. I'm happy to bow out on that. But like, I got to my last class and I posted a TikTok online about it. I was hysterical, like crying and crying. And it was nothing to do with the competitions. Like, see, my last year, I was basically getting pushed on the stage to go up because I was so nervous all the time. Um, but the actual dancing and going to class and being part of that, I found really hard to give up, if that makes sense. Like,
Oh yeah.
Worlds was done, the next competition, somebody said, "Do you wish you were up there?" And I was like, "There's not enough money in the world for me to put a wig on right now. There's not." I didn't want to get up there, but the part I loved was the actual going to class and dancing and
Yes.
being that.
I
So
can so did you have like because I know this was true for me and I'm curious if it was the same for you. In the lead up to my last competition, I would have this sort of countdown in my brain of like, oh my gosh, there's only going to be this many more times I'm in the studio like this or like this many more classes or like I'm only going to have this many more Thursday nights like this or whatever and I'd have this countdown and it's same here. I would cry all the way to dance and I would cry all the way home, not because I didn't want to go to class, but I was crying because I was like, it's another one off the list of the countdown. And yeah, I can so relate to that as like not wanting to lose that part of your routine and that part of your life of going to class. Did you have that too?
oh, so bad. I can remember driving to a fesh and being like, "This is the last time I'll drive before a fesh."
Yeah, exactly.
And there was a few classes that I cried doing that countdown. During the class,
Yeah.
I was standing going, "This is the last time on a Tuesday in February that I'll be in the class." Like,
Yeah.
mental things in my head. I'd done exactly the same. But I didn't have the option now. If I hadn't, because I'd decided I was doing the exam before the Worlds, I didn't have the book or anything because I was like, if I get the book, then I might take focus off the Worlds. So I didn't get the book. But because in between the All Irelands and the Worlds of my last year, Sharon got diagnosed with breast cancer. So we knew that after the World Championships, she was going to be going through treatment and chemotherapy for quite some time. And that exam was coming up, and we were like, I'll sit the exam, and a couple of us sat the exam in the class because it helped the class run because we needed a registered TC there. So I didn't have the, oh, but I could go back. If
Right.
I, I'm not convinced that I would have retired because I think I would have done what you had done and been like, I'll just do one more.
Yeah.
Finish, but the idea of going back to class probably would have. I don't even know if it would have. The competing part, I was so done with. But I was after the Worlds the next day. I was like, right, time to start for the exam.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's for a lot of dancers, probably a good strategy is to like go straight into your TC or straight into a show or like whatever it is, but have something else because I think that just stopping and not having anything to transition into for somebody who's so passionate about it and like you've lived and breathed it, I just think that that would be such a hard drop off and it would be just unbearable, I think, but that's just
Yeah.
me.
After I sat the exam, like, because I booked the exam, I got the book, and I sat the exam 6 weeks later. I'd done no preparation before that, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone. Like that at home. The time during the day. So I would wake up in the morning, I'd study until it was time to go, and I would still go to class at the time because I was still trying to learn how to teach, and so I would still be at class, learning from Sharon and Mrs. Taylor every night, and I done that for weeks, and then I sat the exam, and I came home, and I was like, what now? Like, because I had such a purpose for that period of time that there was that waiting period in between finding out, like sitting the exam and finding out if you're passed or not, that I didn't know what to do with myself. Like that was probably the hardest time.
Yeah. definitely. I can imagine that. And also the waiting for the results. Yeah, for sure. So but you do have like you have an engineering degree as well, right?
Yeah, I've got a master's in engineering.
Yeah, so that's also amazing. So just oh yeah, just a master's in engineering, like no big deal.
I don't use it.
You don't use
No, I hope to never use it because that would mean that the dancing or the social media or that wasn't successful. But if I do need to use it, plan B is always there.
Well, I mean, that's amazing to just have that in your back pocket. So the plan is like Irish dancing and then social media. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like you, that's been so cool to kind of watch you with all of that. But can you just, yeah, give us a rundown of what that's been like?
Yeah, it's been bizarre. Absolutely. Like some of the things that happen still to this day, I'm it's little old me, like the Northland, Scotland. I'm in the town in the middle of nowhere. Like I don't understand it myself, but it was more the social media really took off. I was posting a couple of dance videos and things through lockdown, and they got a couple of views and stuff. But it really took off when I started doing the get ready with me's with the wig. And that was all because I was so nervous getting ready each morning that I found I was better talking. So
Uh,
when there was someone not there, I would just talk to the camera. So you find that I end up being a wee bit, I don't know what state it was that I was in, some sort of hystericalness that I'm saying all these things that I wouldn't even normally be like, because I was so nervous inside and that's the way it was coming out. And then the night after the fesh, I'd flag my bed, edit it and post it. And they were getting like 8, 9, 10 million views. And very quickly, I started being on social media.
Wow, that's crazy how you kind of took like a tool almost to be like, okay, just to like survive the day and be in a better spot to perform and do my thing, I just gotta talk and like get this all out. And then it ended up being like this whole other world that you didn't even know existed. You just happened to like tap into. That's that's crazy, but very cool.
I was talking in the mirror to myself, like people would think I was not right in the head. But if I'm talking to my phone and post it on the internet, I mean, people probably still think that. More like socially acceptable.
well, I wonder like if a part of why they were so successful is because you were just like being like so authentic to your experience and then people could relate to that. And maybe that's what people want to watch is things that they can relate to.
Sometimes I think it might just be the big curly wig. I do think.
Well,
What?
I'm sure for like the non-Irish dance audience, of course, which is a large percent of the world, that probably did get you a lot of interaction. But just from like obviously Mackenzie and I are dancers and know you through that, but like just hearing your conversations about that and like your openness about the dance journey and your own unique journey and all of that, I think is not something that happens like really ever in dancing. And I think what we're trying to do with these kinds of conversations and what you've done a really like beautiful job of in your social media is just kind of being open and honest and sharing all sides of the experience, whether you're just like getting ready or your class experience or whatever it is. That's not really something we do in Irish dance. And I'm sure that was just like fun for younger kids to see, or even older kids like Mackenzie and I, just to feel like, oh, seen and appreciated, and our experiences are shared and shared by someone who's like a really good popular dancer. Like you have quite the name. So I'm sure lots of young kids watching were like, wow, I feel so seen and appreciated, and she's so cool and all of that. So even more than the curly wig, I think you provided a lot of purpose.
Thank See, I didn't ever really feel like that. Like I didn't think of people I knew watching it. Like obviously I knew my mum because I can hear her in the other room, and yeah, I hear my voice. But like I didn't really think of people that I know watching it until at my last Worlds. another dancing teacher came over to me and said, I watched your video the other night, you crying after your last class. And she was like, and I started crying because I knew what that felt like. And she's like, and it brought that all back to me that people don't really talk about after competing. Like people post a retirement post and then they're done.
Mm-hmm.
They move on to other life or a show or the teachers or what our options are. We don't have very many options, but people don't talk about how difficult the sort of, I don't want to call it the afterlife, but
Yeah,
Kind
like
of.
that, the transition
afterlife.
from your rigid routine and training and all of that. And I think it's becoming more popular in other more mainstream kind of sports and things, but certainly not in Irish dance. No one's talking about like, oh, I have no idea how to create like a workout plan for myself if I'm not dancing every day. I have no idea how to structure my day or what like a normal person does day to day when you don't have that. And I think your just openness about all of that is really appreciated, not only like by Mackenzie and I, but just the whole dance community. And you're right, like not everyone's gonna come up and probably say something at a competition to you, but it's obviously appreciated. And I know like on my end, I interact with dancers all the time who are like, oh, do you know Laura? Like you're a household name, you know? So doing that kind of authentic, kind of scary or weird feeling work is like quite respectable.
Yeah, that's dead kind. I think I just think nothing of it. Like even when I'm editing my videos, it's not very often. There'll be the odd time where I'm watching a video 5 or 6 times before I post it. But most of the time, I edit it and then I hit post, and I'm like, I hope I've not, because I'll have wee bits in between where I'm going, eh, mm. Like next, I'm like, I hope I've not left any of that in, and like I don't really think about the video again. It just goes, and whatever happens, happens. But like some of the more serious videos tend to stay in my drafts for a few days
Do
so
you
that I can
think
watch them.
Do you think this kind of process has made you a little more open in some ways? Because I think, at least in my experience in dancing, there's a lot like, oh, you only want to be positive, you know, you only want to post your like very best things on Instagram and all of that. But do you think it's helped you to just be yourself and like enjoy dancing more and enjoy your life more as you've learned to like just be open or as open as one can be about your journey? Or the reverse, maybe. I don't know.
I think in some ways, yes. In some ways, absolutely. I've felt that I can say more online because I do have a platform, and sometimes it is a voice for people that don't want to say anything, like, and it makes them feel less alone. But in other ways, I don't want to be like, if I'm having a bad week, I don't want to be constantly open and honest about that because I don't want to be spreading that to other people.
Mm.
Um, but that sort of any sort of negativity, I think, can be quite contagious. So I do try and post the happier stuff as much as possible, but sprinkled in there is some of my like bad times or bad days or any sort of hardships and things like that, because you have to find the right balance of being open and honest and also being a place that is safe and happy most of the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting to think about. And I think just like in general, as as older dancers or like role models or eventually teachers or whatever, that's actually something that I think we have to consider, even if we don't have like massive platforms, because, as you well know, like you have an entire school of dancers and sometimes beyond that are kind of looking to you, for how to act and like how do I navigate these challenges and how should I turn up to dancing class and like what is the right mindset to have when I'm frustrated with a piece or like how do I navigate that? And so I think that those are some of the nuances that you were speaking about as becoming a dancing teacher that you don't even realize are part of the gig. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to teach the steps and you got to talk about the right technique and you have to do all of those things and all that's all very important, but it's almost like all of the other, more nuanced stuff in between that you don't even realize you're teaching these lessons just by like the way you act and the way you respond to things. And it's definitely a responsibility, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. I know exactly what you mean. Like, there's been times where kids have got a result that we've been disappointed in, not because the kid's dancing, but because it's a subjective sport, that you start to look and go, right, how am I going to react to this disappointment?
Mhm.
So that they know how to react to this disappointment. Because actually, it's okay to be disappointed if you don't get a result that you wanted. It's absolutely fine.
Mhm.
But how do you go on from that? Like, what's the next steps? And I think a lot of that was influenced by my dancing teachers, how they reacted to disappointment. And
Mhm.
I realised that at the time. So now I look at myself for things like that and I'm like, right, okay, what will I say? How will I act? Will I smile? Will I have a sad face on? Like, you have to think about all these things because it is moulding the future generation.
Yeah, it's really a leadership role, right? It's yes, you're a TCRG and you have skill in Irish dance, but it's about like shaping students' lives and teaching them how to find purpose and either like take that into more of the dancing world or like go beyond and have a different career. But it sounds like in having that amazing leadership in your life, you're now able to have that kind of like well-rounded approach as you step into the studio. Not only are you trying to be your best like Laura as a TCRG, but in terms of just being like a leader and meeting kids where they're at and being a role model that they need. And I think that's very, not very respectful. I think it's like incredible and just really quite wise.
Definitely a pretty powerful force, I think, in your own community. I think you're probably such a driving energy that's like bringing up the next generation of your school and then beyond in the world of Irish dancing and bringing up the world of Irish dancing more into the mainstream with what you're doing on social media and all of that. I think it's super cool. One question I have to ask you, I have to ask this, is I want an honest review of Tim Hortons from you. Did you actually enjoy the Tim Hortons items?
Right, Tim Hortons. See the honey cruller donut? Do you get that?
Yeah.
Same products everywhere because we get it in Motherwell, which is close by me. It's a honey cruller donut is potentially my favourite bakery item ever.
Wow.
It's airy, it's got a bit of crunch to it. It's it sometimes tastes a bit cold. I can't describe.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. So I Honey Cruller was my go-to as a small child. My mom would take me to Tim Hortons and that I would get a Honey Cruller. That was my go-to. And I very much agree. I love them. But my problem is I ate so many as a kid that I can't eat them anymore. But I can see the appeal.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's almost like wet inside. It's in Scotland and like Starbucks. Our Starbucks is in Costa and all our coffee chains use like skimmed milk in their drinks or like semi-skimmed milk. So the drinks can be a little bit watery. Whereas
Mm.
Tim Hortons, even in Scotland, puts cream in their drinks. So the drinks are always thick. Like the iced coffee is made with cream. Like we would have strawberries and cream here.
Hmm.
It's cream, so it's like a dessert.
Yeah, they are like a dessert. They 100% are like a dessert. I don't know, just as a avid Tim Hortons fan, I've been a steep tea drinker for like a very long time. And so when I saw you guys do the taste test of Tim Hortons, I was like, I gotta know if she actually liked the Tims or not. I love it. Okay, well, on a finishing note, I'm just curious, what are you most looking forward to for Irish dancing in the future?
Oh
Broad
God.
question.
Do you know what? To see where it goes, to see what happens next. I love seeing new choreography on stage because when people come out with a new move, like, see, sometimes when people come out with new jumps and all that, I think that's dead exciting. But I do think it's growing and growing, the dancing world, and it certainly is here. And I can't wait to see new talent rising, like the under sixes and sevens and stuff in the class that we've got. I'm like, I couldn't do that at under 15, and they're doing it now. So that's really exciting to see. And probably where the dresses go as well. Like, what else can be done? We're running out of things.
There's always something new. There's always something new to surprise us.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, it's been like such a pleasure to talk to you, and you obviously have just the most amazing passion for dancing and leadership and all things in life. So I think people are going to get quite a lot out of this episode, and it was just such a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so, so much for having me and thinking of me, guys. I love what you're doing with the podcast and everything. I think we've been missing this in the Irish dancing world. So I'm so excited to see who your next guests are and listen. And I absolutely love it. So keep being you to both of you and keep doing what you're doing it because you're absolutely smashing it.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of the New View podcast. We hope you enjoyed.
If you have any ideas about future guests we should interview or want to connect, you can find us on Instagram at newview.collective or email us at newviewcollective.mm@gmail.com.